So hi everyone, and welcome to our first Wildcard Wednesday for March. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Sue Miller. I am a Senior Fleet Account Manager here at Geotab. So for today's session, we'll be discussing solutions at your fingertips with Andrew Harris, Digital Automation Team Lead, and Genevieve Bouchard, Digital Community Manager. Both Andrew and Genevieve are engaging presenters, and I am really excited for their presentation today. So with that, I'll turn things over to Andrew to get us started.
I'm Andrew, this is me, and my cat Cheese, who's my co-star in life. I've been working at Geotab for about 2 years now. I actually got my start in mental health counseling and pivoted over to startup, which is, as all of you know, a very natural progression in a career. My role here is to build out assets for customers that empowers them to help themselves. In a broad scope, we're hoping to let customers solve their own problems instead of having to engage us. And that's basically what we're talking about here today. I'll pass it to Jen. She'll give a brief intro, and then we'll dive into the agenda that we're going to run through today.
Thank you, Andrew. My name is Genevieve Bouchard, or Jen is a lot easier. I'm the Digital Community Manager here at Geotab, and I run the Geotab Community, which can be found at community.geotab.com. I've been with Geotab for almost 2 years now, and I was actually brought on specifically to develop and manage this community. My background is similar to Andrew's. In fact, I started in psychology. I have a master's in counseling. I went into marketing, digital marketing specifically, and fell in love with the field. It's a way to help a lot of people at once. With that, I'm going to pass things back to Andrew, and we're going to dive into this presentation.
Awesome. Thank you, Jen. I want to give you an idea of what to expect out of this webinar today. It's Wednesday. I know it's the middle of the week. We're definitely going to keep you engaged and leave you with some things that you can take away and use. So this isn't future looking. We're not showing you stuff that's coming. This is, for the most part, things that are already in action and pieces that you can use while we're talking. I want to run through a little bit of why TechTouch exists, TechTouch being the program that we're talking about, run you through some assets, kind of show you how to navigate those things within the Geotab community, and then I'll pass it to Jen to give you kind of a broader scope of the community at large outside of the stuff that we've built on my team. Sue will facilitate a question and answer session, and then we've got a list of additional resources for you to take away at that point. So before we start, and I can't see you, so if you don't engage with me here, I'm not going to know. But raise your hand if you've ever called product support. I'm going to assume that everybody's hand is up. My hand is up. Keep your hand raised if that was something that you wanted to do when you woke up that morning. I'm going to assume that everybody's hand is up. Keep your hand up if you had a pleasurable experience that led you to need to call support, right? You had to call product support because everything was going well, right? We know that's not the case. When you call product support, it's because you're experiencing pain. There's a frustration that something's not working, and expected functionality is not functional. And so you've had to pick up the phone and call support, get on a chat, somehow engage with product support, and wait to some extent. Now, if it's chat, ideally it's a couple of seconds maybe. If you call product support, they may need to put you on hold for a couple of minutes to help solve your problem. If you have to email somebody or open a ticket, it could take, ideally, a few minutes, but realistically, we're talking about an hour, and at worst possible scenario, a day. Now, most of our customers at Geotab don't have that kind of time. Just to be perfectly honest, our folks are busy. Our users are crazy busy. They're wearing 15,000 hats. They're doing a million things at once. In some cases, they're the CEO and on the road. In other cases, they're maybe a small business owner driving a truck, like an independent fleet carrier. They've got to keep their truck lease paid. They've got to talk to their family. They've got to stay compliant with the ELD mandates in North America. They have to stay on the road and be safe and do all those things that they're expected to do as part of their day-to-day job. But then if they have a problem with the tech, they have to be on the phone with support. And I don't know about you, but if I was in that situation where I had a $150,000 truck lease and all those things on my plate, I'd be a little touchy. I'd kind of be a little aggravated, low-key all the time. And if I had a frustration and then I had to wait for an answer, that would not be a good day for me. So keeping that in mind, we have put together a suite of resources. We're calling it TechTouch. It speaks to onboarding and also success being the delivery of additional value post-onboarding. So once you know how to use the technology, how do we get more out of it, right? We don't want to just say, okay, Geotab is Geotab, I'm good to go, right? We all have an expectation to recover ROI out of the product, continuing from day one through onboarding complete, graduated, now I know how to use it for the life of your use of that product, right? And ideally for us, that's forever. Like I said, everybody's busy. So we wanted to build out a suite of assets to help people solve their own problems at will, learn about Geotab when they need it, So not have to sit through 5 to 7 hours of training sessions with an implementation specialist, who are, by the way, fantastic and can certainly help you. But it's a lot of time out of the day to be spending with somebody when you've got a business to run, or you've got a truck to stay on the road, or you've got all these other things to keep in consideration. It's prime business hours. It's kind of a lot to ask. So my team was tasked with the job of creating a suite of resources to help people do whatever they need, whenever they need it, for whatever reason, to make Geotab work harder for their fleet. And I'll run through these things kind of individually, but overall, we want to make sure that best practices are conveyed, pro tips are conveyed from the Geotab success team. That's the team I come from, and where a lot of our strategic knowledge at Geotab sits. We want to make sure that if somebody wants to onboard, they don't necessarily have to sit with the trainer for 1 to 7 hours. If they don't want to, they can engage in onboarding classes, longer modules, learn pieces as they need them, really in whatever way they want. We want to make sure that they're able to solve their own problems. So you don't have to engage with support if you don't want to. And this is where I have to caveat and say some of the stuff is coming in this particular section. Some of the stuff is already built, and I'll show you that as well. And then we want to make sure that you can talk to other Geotab users who use Geotab like you do about how they use Geotab, if you follow me. So getting help from your peers. And then as always, we want you to be able to access one of our experts on call. And again, I'll run you through all these little pieces. But just at kind of a high level, the goal is to give you the support, training, help, knowledge, whatever you need it in whichever format you prefer. So you like video, cool, great. You want to chat with somebody, also great. You want to do it yourself, fine. TechTouch provides that flexibility without asking for time. So ideally, the goal being when you experience pain, we want that pain to be resolved as quickly as possible, if not immediately. Obviously, we can't read your mind, so there's a little bit of a delay. There may be a couple of seconds while you search for the answer to your question, but we don't want it to be minutes. We don't want it to be hours. Definitely don't want it to be days, because you guys don't have that kind of time. Just to reiterate, we want you to be able to use Geotab the way you need, solve any issue quickly, deepen your understanding of the product, and share your own best practices as you get better at using Geotab for your fleet specifically. No pain, all gain is the goal here, right? Obviously, pain exists. We know that. Things happen. We know that too. But zero pain with all maximum gain. All right, so I'm going to jump out of the presentation here and go into the actual community. This is the getting started page. So when we talk about onboarding, in our onboarding flows, we automate that process to cover all the bases. This is where we're going to send you. So within this, you'll see installation videos. I'm not going to open everything, but trust that there's videos behind this button. We've got the ELD HOS training. So specifically for our HOS clients, and I'll pop this open. There's a ecosystem here where you can go, if you're a driver, you can click in here and get video assets. If you're an administrator using HOS for your fleet, you can jump in here, get installation guides, Q&A session registration. Again, all of these videos will play. Lots of resources here. So specifically for HOS, we know that those folks need help right now, right? They don't have time to be pulled over on the side of the road, and we definitely don't want them surfing the internet while they're driving. So resolution of pain there is super important. My Geotab training, similar to ELD HOS, and again, I'm not going to open up every asset. There is an ecosystem behind this button that will give you the My Geotab specific training. Rules and reports, default fleet management tools, fuel and maintenance reminders, general getting started stuff, all sits behind this button. And then, of course, like I said, we want you to be able to access an expert on call. So if you have ELD questions, this is one where we're okay with you talking on the phone or being in the meeting while you're driving. Obviously, we'd prefer if you pulled over, but we wanted to make it easy and not require you to have to stop. And so you can pull into one of these meetings, get on your headset, ask the question, and hopefully get an answer. So the next time you stop, you can solve that problem. And then specifically for My Geotab, because these are very different use cases with very different questions and different pieces of functionality, we wanted to provide that as well. That's not enough though, because if we just gave you installation videos, training videos, and an Ask the Expert session, that's just not everything you need. And the goal is to provide everything. So we built out this HowTo Video Hub where you can search, you can categorize things down by topic. If you've got a GPS video, you can look at it there. Really narrowing things down as much as possible. This will grow. This asset library will get better and more robust as we move on. But at the moment, I believe we've had 35 videos here with the goal to add another 47 in the next couple of months and then add to that. My goal is to have there not be a piece or a task in My Geotab or the Drive app for that matter that isn't represented by a video tutorial. Now, I'm not going to send you into a 27-minute video tutorial about how to upload and customize a report, right? The goal is to make those things very bite-sized, very, very truncated, so that when you have pain, again, I'm experiencing pain, I don't know how to do this thing with a report, I want to figure it out, less than a minute, minute and a half tops before you have an answer and a kind of a walkthrough. There's another piece of this that I'll introduce to you later, but one of the other things that I talked about before was peer-to-peer success, and the community is that, right? The community is a place where everybody can come together and help. However, we're Geotab, and we know Geotab better than anybody else, and we want to make sure that you can access Geotab's expertise as well. So Jen and I worked together to build out this group. This is called the Fleet Success Center, and when you go into the community, by the way, the Getting Started page is going to be right under Getting Started at the top here. The Fleet Success Center is going to be under Collaborate and Groups, and you can select Fleet Success Center. I'll just nav that now so you can see what it actually looks like. There's 4 main groups at the moment, and I know Jen's got a roadmap to create several more. Fleet Success Center being here, you can jump in here and ask a question, not so much about how do I use or how do I do a thing within my Geotab, but why should I do the thing this specific way? Or, and I'll show you here in a second, I have this problem that I can't find the answer to, what do I do? Right, so the goal of this group is to really provide that strategic functionality that helps you do better, right? Not just do, but do better with Geotab. We want to make sure that you're able to get questions answered around efficiency. You know, like I said, problems around have this value in a report that I can't answer. Again, really high level. Jen asked a great question here. How do you provide ROI, right? What are we looking at? Are we looking at cost of ignoring or return on investment? I want to dive into this question really quickly here, and you'll see me in this, by the way, and not to toot my own horn, but there's a conversation thread here that's really fruitful. You'll see a lot of folks chiming in. Some of these folks are Geotabbers. Some of these folks are people that just exist in the community and wanted to jump in and help. But this is how it normally goes within this group, right? We have a question and a bunch of people jump in to answer it. And that's the goal of the Fleet Success Center, is to get you the help that you need when you need it. Overall, like I said, the goal is to help you, right? And I wanted to talk about, I mentioned that I would route back to mental health and counseling and things like that. Everybody wants to be empowered, right? They want to be heard, they want to be listened to, and they want to be empowered to make their own decisions. That's the whole point of this. Over the last couple of years, we've listened to folks' feedback, we've looked at data and seen how folks interact with our platform and with our trainers and things like that. And what we noticed was, by and large, people don't have time to take that 7 hours out. So putting together this resource set really fleshed it out in a way that is as empowering as we can at this point, with the goal of making it more empowering. So a future state for me would be, again, every task, every piece of my Geotab, everything you could possibly do within the platform has A, a video, and B, a step-by-step tutorial on how to actually do it that's in a PDF form or something like that. Now, we haven't talked about solving your own problems. And that's really the piece that most people want. And why did I put it last? Because selfishly, I wanted to show you the pieces that we've built before we got to the stuff that you're going to use day to day. So this search bar up here is a secret power, secret weapon, right? This is actually probably the most powerful piece of the community at this point. And I'm super happy to argue with Jen about this. But really, when a user comes in here and says something like, my device is not communicating, right? Now, most people would say, oh, this is going to go to a conversation about how a device is going to communicate and why it's not communicating and all the things that we can find. And it will. But it will also go to a step-by-step KCS article, which is coming out of our knowledge-centered service team, which Sue is a big driver of. The icon here is going to be a knowledge article version versus a conversation, right? So IOX SatterDB2 panic feature, not everybody, right? This is very specific. Communicating device not showing up on the map, kind of everybody. So if you have that problem, or you have my device is not communicating for whatever reason, you can click into these knowledge-based assets, again with the wrench on the side, and get an actual KCS article about how to troubleshoot a Go device that is not communicating. So this is the ultimate empowering for support type issues. We don't just want to teach you stuff. We want to give you the tools to solve your own problems as quickly as possible. And as much as that hurt our collective ego, that sometimes means that it's not with our help, right? We're helping you here, but you don't have to engage with us. We love you and we love talking to our customers all the time, but it takes time, right? It's a minute to make the phone call. It's a couple minutes on hold. It's, the problem has existed forever long, and if it's all of your devices, your fleet is down, right, for all of that time. If it's one of your devices, it's still super important. That vehicle could be an ambulance. That vehicle could be somebody who's maybe on a treacherous road in the winter that you want to keep an eye on and make sure they get to the place where they're going. Something that the device isn't communicating can be a problem, right? And not just a, oh, I'm not getting the data problem, which is significant enough, but is this person okay? And that's kind of where we wanted to give people the power to solve that issue. So step by step here, of course, there's a procedure. Ensure that the serial number listed is like the right device. Are we looking at the right thing? Blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, if you can, power cycle the device. If not, there's other articles here. So on the additional notes in a lot of these questions, you know, we can create a support ticket for this specific example. You'll also see a lot of related stuff over here on the side and trending articles that might tie into that. What I also want to focus on here is the feedback. Now, I'm going to leave feedback here, and I'm going to trust Jen to know that it's just me leaving it in this test version. But for this one, let's say you have a power cycling the device here, right? So if I have an enhancement suggestion, I want to say, hi, would love an article about how to troubleshoot. Boy, I'm bad at typing in public, everybody forgive me. The device, if I can't access it. Submit, right? I have to rate the article. I rate the article thumbs up, but I have notes. So a lot of times when I'm engaging with a giant conglomerate that's named after a certain river in Brazil, I don't know where this goes.
Hi, this is Genevieve. I just want to give a little more information about the article feedback because it really is so important. So I personally don't read it, but we have an entire team called KCS. Their entire purpose is to create these articles and make sure these articles are up to date and relevant for you. So while I don't read it, I can guarantee you that a subject matter expert, that means somebody who's either an expert at Geotab Drive, my Geotab, hardware, any of the different topics, reviews these every single month and incorporates the feedback into the articles. That is absolutely how the process works. So please share any feedback on here. If an article seems like it's not actually helping you out, if you need more information, if it did help you out, let us know, because not only will we update these articles, but I won't go into the entire KCS process, but we use the feedback to improve our products. So if a lot of people keep coming up across the same article, we then have to step back and say, what in our product isn't working that is making so many people have to ask this question? So I just really wanted to jump in and let you know we read every piece of this, and it's really beneficial if you can submit feedback.
Before I touch off, I really want to talk about what's coming. So for all customers across Geotab future state, there's going to be a chat for all function where you can actually chat with a support agent within the platform. This again, empowering you to solve your problem with minimal pain and maximum gain. What we're also going to do is anchor what we're calling a software guidance application within my Geotab, such that you can search KCS and tutorial flows within the platform. So now we're not making you go to the community to search those KCS articles that my device isn't communicating type of content. We're going to anchor that directly into the platform. That's scheduled for the 2102 release. It'll be in beta and then released wide to every single Geotab customer worldwide, localized for content. Of course, if you're in Germany, we're not going to make you read English. We're going to give you all of this stuff in German as well. So that's a little bit about what's coming, and that really fleshes out all of the pieces. So yes, we've made it easy. Yes, we have the assets. Yes, it's reduced time to value. Now it's right where you are anyway. With that kind of future glance, I'll pass it off to Jen. She'll take over from here, and she'll tell us a little bit more about the community.
I'm going to go over a few of the different ways the Geotab community can help you right in the moment. I've used this actual slide right here before. This time, I'm not going to just touch on these points. I'm going to dive into the community and show you each of these points live. Andrew had mentioned that I might argue with him and say that the search is not the most important component of the community. I would never argue that. I absolutely believe search is your best friend. Anything you do in the community should probably always start with search. The reason being is we have super users, we have a lot of other users who are happy to be in here and to help you out and answer your questions, but they're actually doing this out of the kindness of their heart. This is not their job. This is something they do to connect and to learn and to grow with everyone. So it's a big benefit if you could do a little research before. Search, make sure the question hasn't been answered, and then go ahead. So we're actually going to start there with search. I agree is always your best friend. And I'm just going to show you another quick example of how that can work. So add a user. Just right there, how do I add a user? Type that in, and it's going to pull up anything the system finds relevant. So I wanted to show you in here a few little navigational things. As Andrew had mentioned to you, this wrench here represents that it's a knowledge article, whereas these little bubble boxes, conversation boxes, represent that it's a discussion. I want to clarify these two different things a little bit because sometimes they can be a little confusing. So an article is that the KCS process that you might have heard about in other presentations. This is an entire service called Knowledge-Centered Services. Every time a customer calls into Geotab with a problem, we turn that into a ticket. We obviously anonymize it. We're not going to put all of your personal information out there, but we turn it into a ticket that other people can use. This is not just for external users. These articles are the exact same articles that our support internally use to help when you call in. So this is really useful stuff. This is exactly what we would go to start helping you. Step one for our support staff is to search this same knowledge base to see if there's a relevant article or discussion. So, but with that, I wanted to show you a few of these filters over here. Say you're not interested in discussions. You don't want to connect with anyone else. You just want to get your answer and move on with your day. You can absolutely filter that to select articles so that only the knowledge-based articles are showing up to you. And that can get you right to your how to add a user in My Geotab. On the reverse, if you want to get into discussions, you want to hear what other staff members are using, other problems they've had similar to this, you can absolutely just select discussions. And again, it will do the same thing. We'll only show you those discussions based on what you typed in. I also want to point out here, if you happen to have been in a discussion in the past and you know who wrote it and you want to get back to that, you can also check that you want only discussions that the author is Superhands, who's one of our users. So just to show you a little bit of how this can really help you just hone right in. You don't have to browse through 100 articles or discussion questions. You can use these different filter and navigation features to get to the exact information you need right away. So with that, we're going to jump back over here and look at the next piece was browse articles, how-tos, and Q&A. So Andrew discussed this quite a bit, but I'm just going to jump in a little bit more to show you that the how-tos, as he mentioned, you can find here in the Getting Started page. So you can come up to the top and you can click Getting Started, or you can use any one of these buttons to get different information. Getting Started will house your how-tos, but there's also a lot of other information you can gather from here. For example, other resources. If you're an integrator, if you have integrators on your team, the Geotab SDK is going to be your best friend probably. So you might want to always know that this is a quick way to get there. We also have documentation and release notes. As Andrew mentioned, we're really mostly trying to talk about things we currently have, but I'll drop in little sneak peeks of what you can expect as well. We're working on an entire doc site. So all of the the installation documentation and more of that type of documentation, we're getting it into a system where we can house it, we can monitor it better, we can assure it's updated, we can allow people to provide feedback, and we are working on that as we speak. So right now we have some documentation in there, but by the end of the year, we plan to have a lot more documentation linked to this community.
So Genevieve, in the moment here, since you're doing some live demo, can you show how to upvote and give users the credit they deserve on community?
Absolutely. So an example of that and why it's important too, as Sue mentioned, and I mentioned, some of these people, most of these people are not Geotab staff. LP, for example, is a Geotab partner and reseller, and he is one of the top contributors in this community. He has been with Geotab for probably 15 years. He knows so much about this product, and he's able to answer a lot of things. But again, this isn't his job, and he deserves a little bit of recognition for the hard work he puts in. So one way of doing that is to select his best. Not only is that giving him the recognition he deserves, but that's also helping other users. The powerful thing about the community is that you ask a question once and multiple people get that answer and that knowledge and can benefit from it. The amount of tickets that we get, people who call in that get deflected from one question is typically about 23. So every time you ask a question in the community, not only are you helping yourself, your driver, your business, you're helping the entire ecosystem to learn. But the best way to do that is to select as best so that someone else who comes across how to use Geotab user session and add in with SSO doesn't have to read through the entire conversation. They can come right here and know that the top rated answer the one that was selected as best and actually helped the person who answered this, is sitting right here at the top. So again, that's a really important thing, and it's very easy to do. So this one, obviously, it already has a select as best. I'm not going to do it and throw off the great answer here, but it's as simple as this button right here, select as best. If you post a question, you have the right to choose which answer helped you out the most. And by doing that, like I said, you're not just helping yourself, you are helping the entire community. And then with that as well, say somebody provided information to you that wasn't the exact answer you were looking for, but it was really helpful. It helped guide you in the right direction. It added a little bit more context to a situation, and now you understand why something's happening. You then have the option of upvoting something. And again, that just gives the person who gave it to you a little bit more points and credit for the information they decided to share. And that's as simple as click upvote, and now that person knows that what they did was useful to you. I even upvote questions. If a question is asked perfectly, and I'll go into what a perfect question is, I upvote that. This is very useful. Somebody else could search this, find this, and get the answers they needed and move on with their day. So we're going to go right on to what do you do if you've looked through the how-to videos, if you've looked through the knowledge articles, if you've looked through the discussions that already exist and you still don't have that answer you need. Obviously, you could call support, but the whole point here is we're trying to help you empower yourself to get those answers. What you can do really quick is ask a question. The power behind asking a question is that not only will we be able to pull in support when needed, but you have a bunch of users who might be online right then and there who have experienced exactly what you've experienced, who can answer your question for you. I've said it a million times, and I will never stop saying that Geotab internally, we have a lot of knowledge, but we're not always in the field actually dealing with these products in the real world, knowing how it affects the driver, knowing how it affects our business. We do our best to learn that. We try and gather as much feedback, interview people, but we're not you. We're not the ones actually using these products in the field. So one of the powerful things about being able to do this is you can ask a question and you can get answers right away from your entire ecosystem of people who have been there. So I do want to point out a few things about asking a question. It's important to choose the right topic. The reason being is people who are very active in the community, they've actually subscribed to topics that they know a lot about. So I had shown you the user LP before. He is an expert when it comes to my admin SDK, my Geotab SDK, add-ins. He is subscribed to those topics. So if you post a question to one of those topics, he gets a notification in his email letting him know you have that question so he can jump right in and help you out. Another thing I like to point out is titles. The biggest thing about the community, again, is to help everyone. So if you make a title that is succinct, meaning it's right to the point, we know what you're asking, and clear, that is going to get you a better answer. The reason being, based on your title, if somebody sees that from the main thread, they know what you're asking, they know they have a little bit of information to share, they're much more likely to click on that, jump in, and give you that information. Details is also important. We encourage you to include as much context as possible. There is one little thing I would say is you have to walk the line between giving us as much context as possible and not sharing personally identifiable information. So I will elaborate on that. Context that we love to see in here includes things like, what systems are you using? What hardware are you using? What steps have you tried already to troubleshoot? What are you trying to achieve that you're unable to achieve right now? That information paints a full picture that we can use to help you out. On the opposite, you don't want to include things like your specific database name or a driver's name or your office location, because this is a public forum. These answers are available to anybody who searches the internet and comes across this community. So that's the only thing we want to point out, is to make sure you're keeping certain things private. I do monitor the community, and if I see something in there, I will remove it and include a little redacted message. I do my best to protect you all, but it takes a community, so keep that in mind as well. I also do want to point out that while everything in here you can pretty much use without having to log in or create an account, asking a question is one of the few things you do need to be logged in and have an account to do. It's also very beneficial if you log in using your My Geotab or My Admin credentials. The reason being well, many reasons, but one of them being is this actually ties back into your Geotab account that Geotab staff have for you. It connects to what company you work for, how we can best get in contact with you, who your PAM would be, a lot of really important information to us to be able to give you the best experience possible using the community. And I also am going to jump in and give you a little bit hands-on. So this here is an example And I apologize if this person's in the community, we are in this session right now, we want to help you out, but this was a shining example of a question that's not so easy to help with. The user asked, can't set my account up. They didn't tell me anything more. They haven't said what they've tried. They haven't said if they have a Go device installed. They haven't said if other people on their team have the account set up. They really didn't give us much to work with. Even with that, a super user did attempt to try and get a little bit more details to help them out, but this is an example of a title that's not going to be very helpful. On the other hand, we have an example like this one. So this has a very easy title here. Has anyone built a new logo for an add-in for the new My Geotab UI? We know exactly what Joy is looking to have. Then from there, a few other key points is she comes in, she lets us know what she's trying to do. She's working on building a new logo for a couple of custom add-ins. She also shares what she's already tried, that she's looked through this documentation. Then she gives us a little bit of background so we know who we're dealing with. She's not an integrator. She considers herself a noob or a newbie. And then from there, she again reiterates what exactly she's looking. Has anyone built this before? Would they be able to share examples? And in response from asking that great question, she was able to get quite a few people who wanted to jump in and give her some input and to share what they've been through. So I also wanted to point out in there that, I had jumped in and I tagged in a few people who I thought might be able to help her. LP and Tucker are common users of the community. I call them super users or insiders, and I know they're both integrators. So in this instance, Tucker hadn't had experience with it yet, but LP did. And that was a way for her to get her answers without having to go to support and deal with people who are actually trying to do what she's trying to do. So, and I'm not going to go into them all, but I just want to show a few more examples of really great titles here. And you can see Joy's style where she likes to give a lot of information, but you don't have to do that. There's also Tony here's style where he asks a great question, gives all the information you need, and it's much more in the way he likes to collaborate. It's right to the point. That's his style. Either is appreciated as long as they're giving us the information we need to easily help. So now we're going to jump back to this little deck here, and we've gone through search, we've gone through browsing, we've gone through posting. Now I want to get into how you can share feedback. There are a lot of different ways to share feedback and a lot of things we do with them in the community, and we're constantly trying to develop more. So an example of how the community users themselves can start helping you is for this person here said that they needed an odometer report with a date, time of last reading. They explained why they needed it. This is interesting feedback that we were able to share with the team, but in the meantime, someone was actually able to jump in and show them exactly what they would do to accomplish this. We were then able to use this to not only let the team know that this is not as simple of a request at this time, and it might be something we want to improve the product in the future to make it simpler, and we were also able to give them their answer with exact coding. I'm going to come through here and also give an example of how we can pull in the product development team. So Will here was bringing up a lot of really interesting things about the new Geotab Drive updates. He had 3 different questions, a lot of feedback explaining what wasn't working for him. We decided this was really useful and that the product development team needed to know. And by we, I mean myself. I have a mouse in my pocket, so I say we all the time. But pretty much after going through, doing our best to help Will, I was able to down here tag in Shanta. Shanta is our product research manager. She is a big wig, knows all of the people who are developing things. I was able to pull Shanta in, let her know this information. It didn't answer his question. We had already done our best to do that. But now this feedback and this question he provided the community, it was sent straight to product support and the Geotab Drive support specifically. And I can show you that down here where Shanta jumps in, letting him know that she relayed this information to the Drive app team and thanking him and seeing if she can reach out to him to get more feedback. So I also wanted to show you a few other tools we have just to show you that we really do take feedback seriously. So right here are 2 different examples. These are forms I had specifically created. So if I spot any feedback you're sharing in the community, it goes right to the correct people. And a final place for feedback, or 2 more things for feedback I wanted to show you is right now you can tell us how we're doing. If you don't like it, if you think we could do better in some way, as I said, we want to hear that. We want to improve this product for you. We want to know how it can actually help you solve your problems instantaneously. Let us know. This feedback I do personally read through and 100% will implement. I would love to talk more about it with you. Now with that, I also want to show you, and here it is. This is top secret information. So what I'm about to show you, it's a little crude in that this is not our public community. What you're looking at right now is a test environment we have. The reason we're in here is I just want to give you a quick sneak peek about how seriously we take your feedback in this community. Not only do I have all these other routes to make sure it gets to the right people, now we're forming an actual entire area dedicated to you giving us your product feedback, your support feedback, anything you're experiencing, and we will do our best to turn these into product enhancements. And there we go. And again, these aren't real. These are us testing it out, but you can just get an idea here that we're looking to collect this feedback, and we have the entire product development team on board with this. So they are going to be looking through these and implementing them in any way they can, reaching back out, finding out what you need. I do want to just reiterate, this will not be a ideation area. It will be letting us know what you need so that we can eventually find ways to make that better. And so I just wanted to, again, now that we've gone through, just show a few other examples of how the community can really help. This user here had a question, a very interesting one. It wasn't one that myself or Geotab had really been able to completely solve yet, so we decided to pull in the power of the community. I was able to tag in a few different super users who are very active members of the community, and they jumped in to do their best. I'll skip through some of these, but they jumped in here to do whatever they could to help this person out. They discussed it, they had been there, they asked him more about what he needed, and they were able to come up with a few really great suggestions for him. So now we're going to head back to this deck, and I'm going to actually jump into a few ways to maximize your experience in the community. So a quick one is always to introduce yourself. And with that, I shouldn't have even opened this up because I'm going to show you an example of somebody who did. So the reason I always recommend you introduce yourself is that we're a community. People in this environment are getting to know each other. They're building relationships with each other. And part of being able to build relationships with somebody is knowing who they are. It's a lot harder to build relationships with an anonymous person as opposed to Candace, who works for CP Energy in Oklahoma. Now, when I see Candace post a question, every part of me wants to help her because I know who Candace is. So that's just a quick tip right there to get the most out of the community, is to introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, why you're here, what you'd like to learn more about. We're a friendly group, and that's always a great way to get introduced. I'm also going to teach you how to edit your profile. So we can exit out of here. The reason for this being is that when you create an account, you are going to be given a nickname that you might not like. It's not going to be a bad nickname. It'll normally be a combination of letters and numbers, probably pulling some from your last name, but it will be absolutely anonymous. And that's not always easy to communicate with L5062 as opposed to Candace. So I just wanted to quickly show you how you can jump in here and change your profile. To do that, you're going to want to click this icon at the top. Mine has my photo. If you haven't added a profile photo yet, it'll just be a typical little profile icon up here. Click on that, select my profile. You're going to get a little sneak peek of mine here, and then you click edit. From there, what you're going to want to edit is your nickname. You can make it say anything you want. I also do want to point out, while this is open, that not everyone can see this. I have managerial rights, so I can see full names. Nobody else can see this information. Everyone else can only see your nickname, your title if you add it there, your company name if you add it there, and your about me if you add it there. The rest will be private. It's not available. But the main point being, change your nickname. Let us know who you are. Andrew's is Andrew in Success, and that lets us know exactly who he is. He added his picture in there too, and now we see him and Cheese every day, and that makes interacting with Andrew in the community a very pleasant experience. A few other things that, like I said, I agree with Andrew. Please always search first. As I mentioned, a lot of these people, it is not their full-time job, so just do them the courtesy of making sure that the question you're asking them hasn't already been answered. I also went over how to ask a great question, not to include personally identifiable information, and selecting best answers. So with that, I'm going to actually pass things back off to Andrew, if that's okay.
We wanted to open it up now for questions. We love answering questions. Jen does it all day long. I do it as often as I can. Sue, I think we have a couple already, or are we waiting for some?
We do have one more here about, do I have to create an account for Geotab Community?
You do and you don't. So you do not have to create an account to consume the resources. You can look at the how-to videos. You can go through that getting started page. You can browse questions. You can browse knowledge articles. There is a lot in the community you can access without ever having to create an account. A few things though, like groups, which I wasn't able to really dive into this time, or asking a question, those do require you have an account. The reason being, it's really just a way of protecting ourselves. We don't want anybody out there to be able to ask a question, because that's opening us up to have some problems there. But for the most part, you can use the community without creating an account to truly interact with it and upvote, ask questions, provide feedback. That you will need an account for.
Yeah, definitely. And that part of it is we wanted to make everything as easy as possible and as streamlined as possible towards solutioning problems. So specifically getting started page and that type of thing. We didn't want to make people go through the login process again. But specifically for the Fleet Success Center, that is a group. If you do want to access that strategic knowledge of the broader success team and myself and Jen and all the SMEs, the subject matter experts that we can loop in, you will need to create an account there. You're not going to get fed things unless you ask for them, but certainly makes it easy for us to know what people are interested in, right? Jen and I both look at data from the back end and what people do. And we want to be able to see, this type of client engages with this type of resource and feed that to the product team or the support team or the onboarding team to say, these are focuses for these types of clients, and really inform where Geotab goes next. And that can really only happen if we see who you are, or at least demographics about you that we can link back into our database.
To add to what Andrew's saying, we're not quite there yet, but we're making the community more interactive with the actual support. So obviously we have a ton of ways where you don't have to call into support, but we also want it to be that when you do call into support, that support is able to see what you've already gone through. So they're not asking you to look at the same knowledge article that you already looked at in the community, that information can be shared with them. Additionally, if you don't have Geotab supported services, if you're logged into your account and it's connected to our Geotab information, if you click support in the community, it will direct you to your reseller or your appropriate support channel. That can't be done if we don't know who you are. So again, we really encourage you to log in because it can help us help you.
Yeah, definitely. And part of empowering customers starts with listening, right? We can't empower you if we don't know what you don't want or what you need. And so when you talk about giving support all the information that we can about what you've tried already, that's part of it, right? We want to understand what you've already endured so that we don't have to go through that again. And again, time to solution, right? We want to make it super, super easy and super, super fast for you to get the help that you need. And we don't want to have to ask you questions that, quite honestly, we should already know, because we should be able to see that from what you've already done. So we're tying that together, and that's upcoming as well. But we're really, really focusing on making things as easy as possible.
Well, I got to thank both of you. I mean, this was the fastest, 50 minutes, excuse me, that I've spent in a long time. And I sense a follow-up in the future, because this is just so much information and exciting information. So we don't have any other questions from the audience. I think we're going to start to wrap things up. And I think by now people know where to put their questions, I hope, because our Geotab community is the place to be. And I really, again, thank you, Andrew and Genevieve, for just a great presentation and lots of information. So until next time, I'm Sue Miller, and on behalf of myself and everyone here at Geotab, I thank you for joining us on today's Wildcard Wednesday. And we'll see you all next time. Same Geotab time, same Geotab channel. Thank you, everyone.